we are back, and we're still in Riga, Latvia for Radio Days Europe 2026. And I have Alex here.
Hey, Ivan, how you doing?
Hey, from Loud FM in Saudi, and it's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
How's the conference been for you so far?
Look, I've really enjoyed it, and really great to be, part of the radio and audio community, part of Radio Days Europe. I first came to Radio Days Europe in 2013, actually, in Berlin. So it's been going for a long time. I don't get to come every year, but whenever I come, I get inspired. I get to see a lot of former colleagues, get to meet new people, network, and talk to people like yourself.
Yes, and you're just coming back from the session, the Virgin, the Virgin session. I know you were involved in Virgin in Dubai. So tell us about your work in general before we focus on Loud FM, because that's big at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Over there. So
look, I feel like I've been in radio my whole life, which is pretty much the case. I started in radio when I was 16 years old, actually, in Australia. There was a family friend who actually got me work experience at one of the big stations in Sydney, which was Triple M. Had the big radio show in the morning with Doug Mulray. So I was hooked straight away from a very young age. I started being a broadcaster on a community radio station for a couple of years. And then, long story short, because it is a long story, I think it's 30, I've lost count, I think it's 38 years this year in radio, working in commercial radio. I finished high school. I gave myself a year to go to university to study journalism. I deferred for a year. I did a radio course in between. Then I ended up getting picked up by a radio station in a small market, city of Goulburn, just south of Sydney. And before I knew it, I was doing breakfast radio there. Moved on to a bigger market of 250,000 people in Wollongong. Try spelling that. Wollongong. It's a beautiful part of the world in southern New South Wales. I was working midnight to dawn shifts and afternoon shifts, and then I got my first job in Sydney in the Big Smoke, and that was really exciting for me. I was only 23 years old, I think, at the time, and the station was 2WS, and that was AM at the time, so that's when AM was still a thing.
Still, yes.
And I saw that station convert to FM, and it became the biggest station in Sydney for a number of years. So I was really excited to be part of that. Then we launched another station, which was a modern rock format, because I moved into programming by that stage. So I was programming, I was on air. Then I worked in multiple markets, in Brisbane, in Adelaide as a program director, music director. I've won awards as the best music director in Australia.
Australia is such a vibrant market, isn't it? From European perspective, it's fascinating because you do so well. I mean, there is something in Australia, there's something in the air. Is it in colleges and universities, or is it just the way you Australians are? Australian radio, that's a completely different planet, and we love it. We love it, and back in the UK, where there is this special thing about Australian radio. We have many colleagues from Australia coming over, and it's always great to have that Australian vibe to everything. So Australia is a special place for radio.
Look, it is a great radio market. I think I was lucky coming through because a lot of the great Australian radio programmers, they learnt from the Americans. And the model of America then, was incredible around shows, around personality, around content, around the way music is programmed. So I was lucky to learn from the best in Australia. And then, and we don't mind saying this, but the Australians taught the English, actually, how to do FM radio.
I know.
And
but that's the thing, and that is why there is this fascination in the UK about Australian radio, because you can hear the influences and how things evolved. As a result, it's very, very interesting, and how the American approach was adopted in Australia, how you did your own thing, and then how it crossed back into Europe. It's fascinating stuff. It's truly fascinating stuff. And then tell me now about Loud, because that is we've been following your work. So what is what's new there? Well, everything's new and big and loud, but tell us about Loud.
Yeah, look, I mean, MBC Loud and MBC Group is my second gig in the Middle East. Previous to that, I worked in Dubai for 10 years. I was the content director at Virgin Radio.
Yes.
And then MBC Loud, they came knocking and the opportunity came along. And yeah, it's been really, really exciting. It was the first English commercial station to launch in Saudi Arabia in 2023. So significant, not just for the country, but also for MBC Group, which is predominantly an Arabic-speaking TV and streaming network with radio stations as well, and NBC FM and Panorama. So Loud was really this loud radio station that arrived. It's English-speaking, it's a bit brash, it's a top 40 format, and it's just been great to be part of the journey of the station, and its growth, since it launched in 2023. I've brought in different personalities from different parts of the world. We've got a really strong breakfast show with Byron Cook. Byron's got extensive, experience in different markets around the world. He's worked in the US. He's Australian as well.
Yes.
Worked in the UK at XFM back in the day, and most recently he was working at Kiss FM in Melbourne. He was previously the anchor of the Fox breakfast show. So a lot of experience. We worked together, briefly as well in Australia in the late 90s, early 2000s. So he's brought a whole, new sort of mindset, content structure to not just his show, but to the radio station generally. So it's been a great ride so far.
It's lovely. And what about the digital forms at the moment? So are you expanding? Into digital podcasting? What are you doing at the moment over there?
Look,
apart from linear traditional radio form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's a good question. I'll just quickly mention Byron too, because you're talking about the digital form. So when he first came on air on his very first show, he made what some would say was an outlandish statement that I'm going to get Cristiano Ronaldo on my show. Okay, that was in that was in April of 2024. We went, what? You're going to get Ronaldo? Ronaldo doesn't speak to anyone. And he campaigned it, and he was on the air just finding different angles to it. He was going to the games and waving his scarf and yelling out to Ronaldo. And then lo and behold, it sort of landed in our lap because he opened a clinic called Inspire, which is for hair regeneration. And he was launching the clinic in Riyadh, and their team came to us and said, Ronaldo's going to be there. Would you like to speak to him? We went, yeah. We thought this might be a bit of a joke.
So he pulled it off.
We'll turn up. There'll be multiple media outlets there. Everyone's going to be wanting to talk to him. But no, the only person he spoke to was Byron, one-on-one for 10 minutes. And that was our first, big interview, big headline across not just, the MBC Loud platforms, but across our digital platforms as well. Because it translated into a mini movie on MBC Shahid, which is the largest streaming platform in the Middle East. And within the first few days, it was the #1 movie on MBC Shahid, which again is a predominantly Arabic-speaking platform. And Byron comes along. There he is, one-on-one with Cristiano Ronaldo. So that was a really, big moment for MBC Loud, also for the group. It really elevated him, elevated our brand, and now we're just known as the Ronaldo station,
Wow.
But then the next thing that we launched, if you're talking about, audio extensions, particularly in the area of podcasting, I know there's a lot of talk, at the conference here about, video podcasting, because that is the way forward. So we recently launched the Laughter Like show. So Laughter is a Lebanese British artist. She's a presenter. She was on the BBC in the UK. And that's a weekly podcast, focusing on the Saudi music scene or artists that have been involved in the Saudi scene. And that's been really successful for us. It's a podcast which drops every Thursday, and that goes across MBC Shahid, which I've just talked about. It goes across our audio platform, MBC Mood, and it also translates into a radio show. So we drop the podcast on a Thursday, and we have the radio show on a Friday, which brings all the music to life. We play a lot of the tracks, from the Saudi artists. That happens on a Friday, air at 6 p.m. So that's been going really, really well for us. It's in conjunction with the Saudi Music Commission. So it was really groundbreaking for us to be able to get that off the ground. It's a really interesting and entertaining podcast. Laughter's a fantastic presenter. You know, she's been speaking to some really interesting artists, including an all-girls group called Sira, you know, from Saudi.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
So, yes. Wow.
I guess if you think of, you know, the Go-Go's from back in the days, you can think of Sira.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, fascinating work. Now, I asked all of our guests 2 questions, Alex. So the first one is, what is the thing that excites you the most when thinking of audio and radio in the immediate and midterm future? And then the second one is, what is the thing that worries you, if there is such thing? And many colleagues would say AI, but I you know, pretend that I didn't mention. But yeah, what are the things that excite you the most when specifically thinking of audio? Because the world is at the moment an interesting place, but talking of audio and radio, and what worries you?
Look, what excites me still is, you know, real people telling real stories, creating, you know, unique and interesting content, not just across the audio platforms, but the radio platforms as well, and the visual platforms. I'm very lucky to work for a company like MBC Group, which has multiple platform opportunities. So we're not just radio.
Yes.
You know, we're audio as well. We're video podcasts. So there's opportunities for our audience to be able to consume our content across multiple platforms. So that excites me because it means radio is always going to be relevant.
Yes.
You know,
and remain relevant. Yes.
Why I talked about the Laughter Like show, because it's not just podcasting. A podcast can bring a radio show to life. You know,
True.
A podcast can bring, you know, a video podcast to life as well.
Yeah, and it speaks the language of a different demographic, different audience as well. So it helps. Yeah, it helps.
Sort of
radio.
my experience around this, certainly in the last couple of years, and everyone's been talking about the death of radio for as long as I can. For about as long as I've been in radio for.
Oh yes, first was the internet, and then then it was podcasting, and radio's still here. It just
radio is incredibly resilient. You know, radio is still the one medium where, you know, you can talk to your audience one-on-one in real time.
Yes.
You know, you connect to your audience emotionally one-on-one. You can't do that, you know, in a podcast, but you can in radio. It's news, it's entertainment, you know, it's music, it's all of it in one complete package. So I still think there is a place for radio in this ecosystem if we are smart about the way that we create the content that can go across multiple platforms. Radio needs the multiple platforms to survive.
True.
That's absolutely critical, whether it's DAB, you know, whether it's podcast, whether it's internet radio, whatever it is. What scares me about radio? AI doesn't scare me at all, actually. I think we just have to be smart about how we utilise AI.
Exactly,
It's not going anywhere, so I'm actually quite excited about AI because I think it can be really, really useful. But we just have to be careful how far we tip it one way versus the other way. That's absolutely critical. But I think what scares me is, you know, radio operators who are still thinking too linear. You know, because if we're not moving forward about the way that we want to progress radio, by utilising as many platforms, by utilising as many real personalities as we can. Because if you're downsizing your radio brands, if you've got one person on doing a show, the rest of it might be AI or might be music, too many syndicated shows, that will kill radio.
Yes.
I hate to say it. Real people.
It's about personality and real people.
Okay, we have to be realistic about how many real people we can have on a radio station, but it still matters. You know, real people still want to connect to a real person.
Yes.
When they're driving to work, talking about, I talk to my team all the time. It's like, do we have to do the traffic? Yeah. The traffic's actually really important. People feel like you're there. It's that one-on-one connection.
Yes, and that
the weather is still important. The time is still really important. Those simple things that we were learning early in the radio days are almost more relevant now than what they were before. So.
Very true. It's that connection, because as you say, with traffic you can see it on the car's display, but having that voice talking to you and interaction, that's very different. Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Absolute
I know
pleasure.
that you have other sessions upcoming, so I won't keep you for any longer. It was a real pleasure, and have a great conference, and we'll be back very soon.